Woo!
Yay!
Live. Okay, this is the live show for The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I'm just gonna give it a little bit to see people start because it's just now starting. Okay. Bex and was it Rhiannon who had the book? They have the book.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
Spencer has it.
Oh, Spencer has it. Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is the live show for the Raven Boys. Before we get started on it, I just wanted to announce that in September, we're reading Heretics Anonymous. I forget the author's name.
Katie Henry.
Thank you, Katie Henry. Oh, you have a copy of that book somewhere.
Yeah,
it's okay. We don't need to get it. Yeah, Heretics Anonymous. That live show will be October 13th at 5 p.m. PST. So read the book with us. Enjoy it. You can read it during Contemporary-a-thon, which Chelsea Darling Reads is hosting. I'm also in Darling Reads' house. Are any of you guys hosting too? No.
No.
Okay. It's Julie and
Julie and Natasha.
Natasha.
Maybe next round.
Yeah. So yes, read that with us this month, and we will discuss it on October 13th. Sorry that I'm playing with my hair, but it's annoying me today. So, I'm Cassie from MissSassyKassie. In case you didn't know, you're on my channel. I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And let's go ahead and start with our initial non-spoilery thoughts. I've got Rhiannon, then Spencer, then Becky, then Bex. And Chelsea can be last.
I'll just come in with hot takes. I read the book like years ago.
Okay.
And I love it. I read the whole series though, so.
Oh, I've never read any of the other ones.
Oh, I've read the whole series, so.
Yep. Please don't spoil any of the other books that I haven't read it.
I'm gonna try my darndest, and
Yeah,
I'm starting, so
yeah,
I'm gonna be brief. That is what you said, right? Oh god.
Yeah, yes.
So I gave this book 5 stars. I love this book. I love the characters. It's very character driven, which is my favorite type of novel. But I also love the like whimsical, like almost magical realism-esque storyline with all the Welsh elements. And yeah, big things for me is my favorite character is Ronan, and I also love Adam. I'm trying to think of who a least favorite character for me would be. I really enjoy basically all the characters. Maybe, oh my god, I forgot his name. The guy that Ronan fights with all the time. How did I forget his name?
The brother or Gan?
Declan.
No, the one that drives the cars.
That's in, isn't that the second book?
Someone take the mic from me. I love the characters. I don't want to spoil the whole series.
Spencer, your turn.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Sorry. Say your channel name. Say your channel name. Did you say that?
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm Rhiannon from Crescent Moon Reads. I'll try not to spoil anything.
All of the people who are here, Chelsea, Rhiannon, Spencer, Bex, and Becky, are all linked down below. So if you aren't subscribed to any of them, go subscribe. They're all awesome. Okay, now Spencer, take the lead.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Spencer, and I'm from the channel Comment Spence. And I first read this book only a couple of months ago, was my first experience with it. And I've since read the second book. So I've read 2 of them, but I'm with Rhiannon. I'm going to try not to spoil anything from the second book. But for me, this was definitely a 5-star read. I'm kind of in the same boat. I really love all of these characters. I think it's a really interesting fusion of like character driven, but also sort of that mystical plot driven elements underneath. I would say, I have said this a million times, my favorite character is Adam. I'm complete and total trash for Adam Parrish. I would take a bullet for him. And I'm starting to like Ronan more and more, but he was probably initially a character that I like wasn't really that interested in. So I'm getting to like him more as things go, but yeah, I really, really love this book, and I really, really love Maggie Stiefvater's prose. I love her writing. I love how atmospheric it is, so definitely 5 stars for me.
Becky.
Hi, everyone. I'm Becky. I'm from Coffee, Cocktails, and Books. And my first experience with this book was actually last October or November, and I was a little underwhelmed the first time I read it. I just wasn't really feeding into the hype of it. But I was also in the middle of finals, so that might have had something to do with it. So I reread it 2 days ago, and I really enjoyed it on the reread. I was able to get more sucked into the story. I was really able to connect with the characters more, and I loved it so much on the reread. I have since read book 2 and started book 3, so I actually wrote notes for book 1 so I didn't get them confused. But I think that my favorite thing with this one is that I just loved how pure the characters are. Like Rhiannon and Spencer, I love Adam so much. I'm actually shipping him with Blue, so just saying.
X has thoughts.
How dare you?
In this one, my least favorite character is probably Ronan. Though there were some parts with Blue that, like, I love Blue, don't get me wrong, but there were sometimes I felt that she was so harsh on the boys, especially Nancy. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I love the characters, and I can't wait to see how all of them like develop and grow throughout the series. I'm so excited to continue on.
Nice. All right, Bex.
It's my turn.
It's your turn.
So I'm Bex from Bexton Books. I also gave The Raven Boys a 5 out of 5 stars. This was my reread, so I read this maybe 2-3 years ago, and I loved it. It's just really, I just think it's a really fun friendship adventure story, which, you know, we don't get a lot of it. So I love it. I love the magical realism. I love that Blue's family are clairvoyants. It's just, the friendships are just goals. I just love it so much. But, you know, I don't like Adam.
I've been waiting for it.
Adam is my least favorite character.
Any of the other books or only the first?
I've read all of them.
Okay.
But I've hated him from book 1.
All right.
Oh, I forgot to mention I gave the book 4 stars. I realized I never said that.
Good. Good. Was that all your initial thoughts, Bex? I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, I love it so much. That's it.
I gave the book a 4 out of 5 stars. This was a reread for me too. I read it in 2014. My thoughts coming into reading this book initially as a reread, I was thinking, like, I didn't really like this book that much the first time, but it won, so we'll go with it. And I was interested in rereading it because I've heard so many good things about the rest of this series, which is why I put it in the poll in the first place. And then after reading it, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I liked it. I also ship Adam with Blue, or Blue with Adam, whatever. I loved the clairvoyant aspect. I loved that. I just loved the dynamics between all the characters, I guess. I did find that some of the magic is just not expanded enough, which is why I didn't get it. Yeah, it didn't get it didn't get a 5 out of 5 stars for me for that, because I'm a big fantasy reader, so I'm like, where's the magic system? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But I also give that some pass because I haven't read the rest of the story, so maybe we're just like getting
It doesn't make sense.
She's been sitting back there waiting this whole time. She's like, I have so much to say. I can see it. I can see her in the corner just waiting and waiting and waiting. And then she's like, I can't anymore. I have to say this.
I mean, y'all know that fantasy isn't really my genre. Those books did not make sense. Nothing happened from book 1 to book 4, and
Okay, so that means that I probably will not like it by the end of the series, because I am super into the magic needs to make sense for me. But I give a first book, like, all of these characters are learning it, right? They're like jumping into this magic. They didn't know it existed before this book started. So I as of right now, I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. I want to know. But like, I will want to know eventually. Yeah, so I loved the dynamics. The characters were great, just like Rhiannon said, very character driven. And I did like that. I think eventually I might not like it. And now, okay, so this was what was weird is I remember having like not great feelings going into this reread, but then I went back and looked at my 2014 review and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars.
I did the same thing actually. Like, I looked at my reviews and I gave like books 1 to 3 4 stars, and I'm like, what the like?
Well, what is that?
So, like the book 4 stars.
Yeah,
I like 4 out of 5. And I like the setting, but everything in between just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's a lot that I will want to get into when we're gonna move into spoilers in just a minute. But so before we do that, I want to say that I loved Noah and like that whole thing.
Yes.
And with that, I'm gonna say we need to make everyone leave who hasn't read it yet. So if you haven't read the first book, bye.
Bye.
And then we're gonna go on. If you're still watching, that means you don't care about being spoiled. So I think
we didn't warn you.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I saw a question from Brittany towards Rhiannon about tarot and something.
Yeah. She asked, because I do tarot and stuff like that, she asked if that element of it played into my role of loving the book. And I did answer. I said that it did play a part in how much I love the book. It's not 1,000% obviously realistic, which for me, I still haven't found the book that is realistic with witchcraft or tarot or anything like that, because most of the time they add like really overt, fantastical, magical elements on top of that. So like the tarot telling you that when you kiss, you know, your future love, he's going to die. Like, that's not going to happen. Yeah. But even though it's not 100% realistic, I did really enjoy that it was in there. I liked that it was included, and it made it very atmospheric for me and also more familiar. So I did enjoy it despite it not being, you know, 10,000% accurate.
I have a quick question for you, kind of going off of that. Are the meanings of the cards accurate in the book to what they actually mean in tarot deck? Like when they talk about like the different cards that they drew in that reading?
I would have to get back to you on that. I would have to go back and see like every time that they, because I wasn't focused on that when I was reading it. So I should go back and like see where they're reading, and then I could tell you. But unfortunately, I don't know right now.
The thing I know on that is that they didn't specify if they're facing, which way they're facing. And I know that that means something when you're reading tarot, and they don't ever specify it. So that in and of itself shows that it's not like maybe 100% correct, but that doesn't mean that the meaning isn't. Yeah.
Not every reader does read reverse cards, but yeah, I mean, to not mention it is kind of an oversight but you could assume that them as readers, they don't use reverse cards because some don't. But
yeah, I've only read where the reverse means something, so I'm not an expert.
A lot of people do, but some people don't. So I hesitate to be like, oh, you didn't read that card as reversed, because some people don't do it.
Okay, that's good to know. Definitely. Were there any other questions in there yet? I don't think so. Brittany said that I'll love book 3 because we're book twins, which is true. Me and Brittany have really good similar tastes, so I do trust that. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Adam being the love of everyone's life except for Bex. Wait, what is it who doesn't love him?
I think it's just me.
Just
That's
Bex.
fine.
And maybe Chelsea. Adam. So I don't feel any which way about Adam. He's neutral.
So cute. He's just
the Switzerland of Adam.
If it helps, I loved him like at the start, but as the book progressed, I hated him more and more.
I feel like there was one thing that he did towards the end that started to shift my opinion of him.
Stop it.
But it also, okay, so I have read book 2 now, and my feelings for him have kind of changed, so I'm just going off of book 1 right now. And in book 1, I thought he was just like a precious cinnamon roll. Like, I just thought that he was so sweet and precious. And then the thing at the end happened with the taking of the Gansu's car and the ley line, and then my feelings sort of shifted around there.
There is that like weird mystery of like what he saw in the tree.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely like, ooh, what's that?
But I felt like
no one said it made sense. I'm just saying.
I am here for a hot dog that he was a cinnamon roll. I think that might play into the fact that I love him so much. I never thought that he was. I thought Noah was a cinnamon roll, but I never thought that Adam was. He was always, to me, he was always like the very like overtly intelligent, sort of cunning one who would come up with whatever plan it may be. So when he becomes sort of more manipulative, that doesn't come as a surprise to me. That was like, oh yeah, that is one of his attributes.
We're talking about Adam?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I might have a different opinion of him than everyone else, but it doesn't surprise me the way he goes about things, especially finding out, you know, like where he comes from, and, you know, that's book 1, right?
Yeah.
I
love Adam so much is like we're like Blue and Adam. Other than them, we're so involved in this like Richie Rich, and I don't come from that, so I don't get it. And we're so in it, and like also our villain is this like pretentious piece of shit. So it's nice that we have these like dichotomy pieces of Adam coming from like a trailer park, and it's like so overtly like the negative everything opposite of what you get from these Richie Riches. And I don't mean that in a bad way, as if like everyone who's rich is bad. I just mean like
I agree, because I feel like some of what might rub someone the wrong way, which I'm not saying that that's what Beck feels, but I'm saying like at large, people might be rubbed the wrong way that he like rejects gifts and like won't accept help and things like that. But like my family comes from this like actual white trash trailer park, pardon me, but like legit. And that is the way that you feel. Like you get this mindset that you don't want to be indebted to anyone. You don't want to have to rely on someone because you have to be able to be self-sufficient, and you don't want to be in anyone's pocket. So that is ingrained in him from when he was a child. So you
don't want to have to like owe anyone anything. Like you don't want to feel like you're indebted to someone else for doing something, even though it might not initially be that, but you're concerned that that's what it's going to turn into.
6 months from now, will he still feel that way when he gave me that car? We don't know, but I'll have the car, and he will be able to change his mind, and I'll be, 6 months into using a car he gave me, and I'll have to do whatever he says. So,
Yeah, that was why I loved just like part of what Adam made in this dichotomy. And then there's also Blue, who definitely has negative feelings towards the Raven boys. And how do you say the name of the place?
Stievfater?
The school.
Eglionsby? I don't know.
Oh, I was just listening to the audiobook too.
I think it says
Aglians with an S,
isn't it?
Is there an S?
Aglinby.
Aglinby. Okay.
Yeah, I listened to it on audio, so that's why I know. Because it's a very weird word.
Yeah. I stared at it all the time. It was like
the same narrator as the Stephen King Mr. Mercedes audio.
Oh, really?
Also the coach from Remember the Titan. Not dead.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I was like, what?
I'm shook.
That's my neck with.
Yes, I did.
Did you guys? Okay, wait. Who listened to it?
I did.
Yep.
Oh shit. Okay, I did.
They're really good audio. I like audiobooks that much. Good audio.
I've heard very mixed feelings about
audio.
I like it at times, and there's other times I did, especially because a couple of the characters sounded similar to the main narration, but then a couple of the other character voices were so different, it kind of took me out of it for a minute, but it wasn't okay.
Really benefit from listening to it while reading along. I feel like that would
be I cannot do that. I've done it one time in
That's what I do.
Or Evelyn Hugo.
Oh, Evelyn, stop it.
I did it for the Female Persuasion, and that book was awful.
Oh.
So,
okay.
It didn't work out. But I put it on like 2 speed and like skimmed it because I had to run a book club on it. So I was like, get through this. It was bad.
Audiobooks can make or break it, I think. I mean, sometimes they're very amazing and sometimes they're detrimental to it.
I listened to it on audio, and I think that really added to the experience for me, because it just, part of it is, I think the book itself, the writing itself is extremely atmospheric. And when you pair it with the way that this narrator speaks, he has like the perfect voice. Like it fits so well to the story that it really feels like he's part of it. And that to me, because I'm the type where with audiobooks, if the narrator is wrong, I'm out. Like it has to be the right narrator or I don't care at all. And I really, really love this narrator. I actually listened to the first book and probably half of the second book. I split between physical reading and listening with the second book, but I really, really like the narrator for this series.
Wow.
The music also really helped get you in the mood, like that score. Apparently, Maggie Stiefvater wrote the score for it. I think I saw somewhere, so that really helped add, like, get you like in that mood and the spirit.
Wow, is it the same narrator for all of the books?
I think so. So far, the first two are the same.
Nice. Okay, so questions. You know me, if I know Bex has been in a live show before, and so has Chelsea. I don't plan these questions, so like I just as I go.
Just feel it, girl. Just feel it.
Yeah, I was watching Common Spence's Darker Shade of Magic live show a couple weekends ago, and I was like, wow, he's so prepared. I should. I'm not.
I love it.
True.
So notice I put on lighting because of you.
I love it.
It's so good. Okay, so we talked about Adam. I want to talk about Ronan.
Oh, my love.
Raven.
I love my favorite character. Oh my god.
Go for it. You just go.
I love him. Okay. First of all, I know it's like a very overt thing to do, but I love the breaking of stereotypes that Ronan is.
Okay. Go.
I can't really explain that right now, can I?
I know.
Not yet.
I agree. I will say I
You hear me. You know what I'm saying.
I need more.
Ronan is the most interesting part of the series.
I do agree with that. He's very intriguing. But like, I can't put my finger on why.
For book one, I was so interested on that bit about like contributing to Dad's death, and like that was like his big secret. I was so like,
We didn't
how? Why?
right? We don't. We don't know what happened. I don't think.
Book two tells you.
They all run together for me, but we know about his dreaming, right? We know that. We know that.
It's the last line of the book,
I love
isn't it?
that.
We do. I don't think we do.
Well, it's you get a vague. I
Well, we get that
recall-
he has like nightmares. Is that what we mean?
That and then Chainsaw, when he got Chainsaw.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love Chainsaw so much.
On his dreams.
Yeah.
And I think his magic is one of the most compelling like magical elements of the story.
What magic?
Well,
Last line of the last line.
Okay, but we can't really get into all of that because that, yeah, I'll just say that gets fleshed out extremely in the second book. Like that's kind of the main focus of the second book.
It's
So
why
I
the
have
title
to-
exists.
Is that the 5
Yeah.
or 6 of us need to come back together in a month
And
and
talk about
the second one, and then we're basically gonna do a read along. Is that what we're planning? I'm down for that.
But I also love how this is his personality, so it's not a spoiler. I love how like hard on the outside he is, but he's actually one of the most caring. He is probably the most caring character in the book. He's the most protective. He really like cares the most and takes the most care of everybody. Like Gansey is like into it for his, his intellectual pursuits and all that. And he cares about everybody, but he's not like a nurturing type. Ronan is like hard as rock, but like also the mother, nurturing, like that archetype. And I love that dichotomy in one person because you can be all of these, traits and these traits all together. And I think he's a perfect example of that because he's not just this like rough and tumble dude who's just gonna fight and that's all. There's no reason. That's just what he does. He also is like very, very like soft-hearted.
Like
Ronan with Adam.
Adam's safety.
Honestly, Ronan with Adam's dad changed every opinion. I was so shaky at first. I'm like, I don't know if I like you. I don't know if you do. And then that scene happened, and I'm like, you can do no wrong for the rest of the series. I love you so much.
Hurt.
It's my favorite part.
Maybe I will have to revisit.
We're convincing someone. That's good. We're convincing. Yeah, no, that moment when Ronan just like runs up and punches Adam's dad, I was like, what? It's so amazing.
I mean, I felt bad for Adam that he had to like press charges and like leave his house, but I was so happy that Ronan, like, because at this part he's so hard, you don't really know how you feel about him. And you're like, no, you do care. You are the sweetest. And oh my gosh, that scene just like all the feels.
He's
I was
such
so
a complex character
too, for finally like being willing to press charges, because like you get the sense that this has been going on for his entire life. Like he's grown up with this, right? And he's always chosen to take what his mom wants because his mom is in it and doesn't want,
she's probably my least favorite character.
Yeah.
And man, like, so realistic, I guess. Like, it's such a real moment. And to have that inside of this, like, very whimsical, magical, like, weird ley line story, I guess. And then to have this, like, raw piece just, like, dropped in the center. It was really, really good. Like, that was one of my favorite parts. This book could have just been about Adam and his friends and him choosing to leave his parents, and I would have been happy too. Like,
oh, same. Oh, same.
I also like the way that those two things play together. Like real, real, like everyday sort of occurrences, like these things that happen, and then like the mysticism like put together. I like that they're blended, because for me they are. So it's like, it's nice to see stories where those two things don't have to, it either has to be this or it has to be this.
Right.
It can kind of like, be both.
Like less of the urban fantasy where it's like, oh, surprise, there's a secret world, but more intertwined in the everyday life. Yeah, that's
they're still going to school. They're just here, but they also are dealing with all this stuff. So, and there's also like, Mr. Gray, he's in this book, right? Yes.
Book 2. That's book 2.
Oh, darn it!
Like, I don't know.
I want to talk about something. It's in book 2. That's my favorite one.
So it's one thing I loved about it though.
We're gonna talk about book 2 next month. Like we're just gonna.
That one's my favorite. So I'm ready.
All right.
It's all about Ronan. That's why.
Okay, I want to talk about some of the magic stuff. Where should we start? Anyone have a?
I see
Chelsea's
Chelsea.
in the back.
I see her in the back with the hands.
It doesn't make
Chelsea,
sense.
come closer.
Yeah, I want to talk about it all. Like, okay,
There's nothing to talk about.
yeah, it's hard to talk about. Where should we start? Does anyone have like a specific thought on this magic? Like,
What magic?
Oh.
It's so hard because so much of it is fleshed out through all 4 books that in the first book it's hard to comment.
Like in the first book, I do like the idea of blue being a battery, though. I thought that was a really interesting concept. I don't know, like just like going off of what you learn in book 1, like how everyone you know is this, except for you, but it's okay because you can help them, and it kind of like plays into like how book 1 went. I don't know. It was from other magical realism, urban-ish fantasy books, it was different. As opposed to like, no, Blue being the wizard, it was like, oh no, your family's a wizard, you just get to stay home.
mm-hmm. Although I still want to know how come she saw Gansey.
Yes.
Why? How? What? That doesn't make any
Stop
sense.
asking! It's gonna make me like explode.
Don't do that. I have to say, okay, so going off of the blue being a battery, it's an interesting idea, but I also was like, she's kind of boring though.
I agree with Becky because I feel like we always get the character who like gets the powers, and then now we have a character that is not like the chosen one type, where it was like if she had been the only clairvoyant, I would have been like, wow, been there, done that. But she, the opposite is great, and it's like also like has an element of truth to it, because there are people that have just like a massive amount of energy but no way to channel it, and being around them gives you energy. So it's like this symbiotic relationship where neither one could achieve what they're supposed to by themselves, but together they're able to accomplish a lot. So I don't know, I liked that.
Yeah, Again,
I also think it's really interesting to see that Blue is in this family of very extraordinary people, and she doesn't have that extraordinary ability. So in sort of a backwards way, that makes her extraordinary, because like normally it'd be like, if I was a witch in a family full of normal people, that would make me special. But her being normal in a family full of extraordinary people makes her normal. And I was personally, when I read this, I was one of the people who was like very into Blue and Adam as a thing. And I think for me, part of it was that they both have these underlying stories of being outsiders, where, you know, we see Adam as sort of the outsider at Aglenby because he's very different from everybody else. And Blue is an outsider because her family is very weird. And then even within her own family, she's different from everybody else. So I just think it's interesting that Stiefvater chose to have Blue be sort of an ordinary character, even though she does still have power, but she didn't choose to make her the most powerful character. She kind of made her like the most subtle character, which I think was an interesting choice.
Kind of going off of that, I like how Blue makes a point to say how much she tries to be different, like how, because she lives with so much like you know, living with all these clairvoyants, how she goes out of her way to make herself different. I kind of like how, like, instead of just like, I'm not like other girls, it's like, no, I'm ordinary, so like here's kind of like my way to stand out. Like it kind of like was a I'm not like other girls thing, but like not as obnoxious as her file saying I'm not like other girls. It's like the realization, oh no, I am, and I guess I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I liked the it's like, it's, for me it was like almost, it was nice that it was subtle, but it was almost too subtle at the same time. Like I don't know how I feel about it, I guess. It's like, yeah, it's cool and it's interesting and it's new, so that's cool. But I was like, can then the other family members and friends be more of the story? Or like I wanted more of this like clairvoyant, like they put the clairvoyance in there and I was like, but like, okay, bring it in. Like I want to have more of it. Like one of my favorite scenes is when the boys go and they get their cards read. Yes. Like, some of it is like they don't want to answer, and you can like feel the like tension between all of the people because they don't want to tell them some of the stuff, and like that whole scene is so cool because you have this magical element in it, and then I'm like, but now bring it more in.
I feel like one issue for me with the magic system overall is it almost feels like we have different magic systems. Like we have everybody at 300 Fox Way has this very like traditional, mystical, magical, you know, tarot cards, candles, stuff like we would expect sort of in witchcrafty kind of books. But then we have the whole caves water thing and the dream magic. And then we have the, you know, the trees speaking Latin and the ley lines. Is like a very different kind of magic. And I mean, I know that they kind of relate because it's like one is grander than the other, but I think that's one thing that people maybe notice or latch onto when they talk about the magic system as being weird, is that it's almost like there's different magic systems within one world. And granted, I haven't read all the books, so maybe that like connects more later on, but I think that's one thing that I thought was a bit weird.
Definitely. It didn't feel like all connected yet.
Yeah.
I would say that that those kinds of magic like it might seem more out of place because it's less common, but it's definitely highly involved in like witchcraft and things like that. Like dream magic, very prominent. You know, nature type magic, very prominent. And I think she pulled like a lot of lore for it and then just kind of like built off of it. But she took a lot of like types of magic that people do practice and like, but doesn't normally find its way into a fantasy. And so when you go to read it, you're like, whoa, like most people who have read about witches before or whatever, they don't see that type of magic normally because no one's really thought of how to like make it a fantasy trope before.
Right.
And now it's in here. And people are like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if did Maggie Stiefvater start the trend? Because we're seeing it a lot more in the last like couple of years. Like, have you noticed that? Has anyone else noticed that? Like, we're seeing a trend of like witches, and some of it is Wiccan, and some of it is like other types of witch. Some of it's made up witch.
Where are all the witch books? I haven't been seeing them. I want them
at all.
Summer of Salt.
I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read.
Always trying to read that one.
There's a bunch of new witchcraft related fantasy books coming out next year. So it's starting to really pick up. I don't know if anyone here has read Undead Girl Gang. I DNF.
I didn't like it.
Witch of Willow Hall got an arc of that. 3 stars. Didn't really involve witchcraft. Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Every book I've read in like the last 2 months has been so disappointing. And I'm just like,
have you read Labyrinth Lost or Bruhaborn?
I have not yet. It's on my list.
Rhiannon, have you read the Sweep series by Kate Tiernan?
Yes!
No. Someone recommended it to me and I need to read it.
I read them when I was in middle school, and I loved them. I cannot attest to how accurate they are, but clearly Spence likes them too.
Okay, I feel like when you were saying like the book that started the whole like Wiccan witchcraft thing, I immediately thought of Sweep because I read those when I was younger. And first of all, anybody that if you don't know, I'm like obsessed with witches. That's like my favorite kind of fantasy thing. And
Me
so
too.
I read that when I was younger, and that was published in like 1999 or something like that. It was very early on, and it was a whole series of books, and I thought it was interesting to see that kind of magic back then.
It's like a contemporary setting, but they do, like, they're Wiccan, and they use...
I'm also... All the witches are, like, in modern... Like, when we get, like, contemporary witches, they're all Wiccan. So that might also be part of why I'm kind of, like...
That's not the only
I
one.
guess I'm just looking for too much realism when people think of witch, most people are thinking like, oh my god, they can shoot fire out of their hands. Whoa! And so we get all of that. And I'm like, what is this? And so I guess I'm just looking for something that no one is associating with the word witch.
Yeah. So the Labyrinth Lost and Bruhaborn it's 2 in a series by Zoraida Cordova, and it's a made-up magic system called brujas that are like kind of based on Latinx magic from the past, but like she made up all the gods and stuff that are involved in the story, and got like it's like full-on witchery, like full-blown magic, like what you're talking about with the fire out of the hand. So it's not subtle in the least, but
have the first book, and I'm excited to read it. I feel like you have to pick one. That's my problem. Like Undead Girl Gang, it was like, oh, she's Wiccan. She's in a metaphysical store. Now she's raising the dead. And I'm like,
yeah, this
was a bunch of bad shit in that book, but that was really bad. I was like, this is not, nope.
That was one thing I didn't like about Undead Girl Gang is like I didn't like that there were no consequences to what she chose to do. But we're not talking about Undead Girl Gang in this book. Back to the Raven Boy.
Spiritual practices, your actual identity, the way you actually live, is for most people a mythical creature. So when you go, it says there's a witch in this book, and you read it, you're like, I'm a witch. I'm gonna relate to this. Then you're like, oh. No, this is a supernatural creature. It's like most people think of vampires and witches in the same breath, and you're like,
right.
Okay. So
it's not accepted as like a religion or anything. It's like totally a fantastical creature. Yeah, that's
really my own personal thing.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are good books that I've gone at because that's what I'm looking for. Wow. Tangent happens. Sorry.
Okay, tangents are good.
Took a turn.
Are good. Okay, so Raven Boys, I want to talk about that scene where they find Noah's car in
Oh my gosh.
Shooketh.
trees, and then all hell breaks loose, and they accidentally lose Noah, like all of Noah. I just want to talk about Noah.
I did not see that coming the first time I read it, and I was so shook the first time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was so shocked.
I was waiting. I was like, isn't Noah dead? Like, am I misremembering this? Like, just waiting for it to, like, creeping along the book. Like, wait, am I wrong? Like, I don't remember. And then finally we get to that scene with the car, and I'm like, oh, I am right.
But the foreshadowing was amazing, like when I was rereading it, because it literally says, well, I've been dead for this many years. And everyone was just like, he has been though.
He actually said he's been dead.
Hey?
I remember that, I think.
I missed that. Yeah, he said he was dead. He literally said it out loud because someone said that he was cold.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And he's like, yeah, I've been dead for what, I don't know, 7 years or something. And I was just like, oh, but you have though. And no one noticed.
Oh my god, I missed that line. Like, I did not.
I caught it on the reread, so I already like knew it was coming. But I feel like we've been so conditioned not to like take things on face value. We're like, oh, that's funny, and now like, oh, just kidding. You're totally not lying to us.
Yeah, you are actually dead.
Yeah, you don't literally expect him to be dead.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, okay.
That's wild, Noah. What a funny joke.
Yeah. You're so crazy, Noah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene is so. That's one of the, I think, the most atmospheric scene for me, where they like walk through the seasons. There's the scene before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a scene before that too, where like all the electronics stop working and stuff. Like those few seasons in that, scenes in that forest are all some of my favorite like magical parts. It's like this book was two different things. There's a really intense contemporary aspect, and then there's this really whimsical, magical aspect.
I remember having to reread that scene. Like, I probably re-listened and reread that like 5 or 6 times. And it's still clearly...
Which one?
After all their electronics were out and they're like in the forest.
And then the tree thing where they walk into it and they like...
What happens then?
I don't exactly understand either. I just know that they're like in that tree. They're like sitting, what I imagine to be like a hollowed out tree, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I read the whole series, Cassie. The whole thing.
Lost.
How did it do that? Well, tell me when you pick up on camera. I just spill over myself.
Okay.
That's what I get.
While Chelsea
Cleans herself up.
Okay. While Chelsea's hanging out over there. Yeah, that scene where they're in the tree, that's before the Noah stuff.
Yep.
Ooh, what is happening? Because like that's where they get that vision, right? Where they each see something, and you don't know what anyone else really saw. You just know what Blue saw because you're in her perspective, if I'm not misremembering.
Right.
But like, what is happening?
I think we found out what Gansey saw too, didn't we? Didn't he say?
Gansey and Blue saw the same vision, just from different perspectives.
Yeah, because Gansey sees himself dead, right?
I thought
Gansey saw old mate. Can't remember his name.
Oh,
you know the
Glendower.
Welsh king. Yeah, Glendower. I thought Gansey found him finding him.
Oh yeah,
I thought that's what he saw.
Yeah, and then Blue. Then what did Blue see? Now I'm lost. Now I'm confused.
Blue saw her and Gansey either just kiss or about to kiss, which I fed into her vision. Gansey saw himself finding Glendower. And if you look on the Raven Boys wiki page, it tells you what Adam saw, but I don't remember the book telling us what Adam saw.
I think, well, Adam says to Blue, don't worry, I would never do that. And then Blue is like, wait, that means we saw something different. And you're in her perspective. And so in that moment, you don't know what Adam saw. You just know that it was bad.
Yeah.
And then I think later in the series, not in the series, in the book, Adam does say that he saw someone dead. Like he saw himself kill Gansey or something.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I can't remember that book.
Yeah.
We find out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember what he saw, but I think it's in book 2, so I'm like not going to say anything.
Man, it's so hard to like separate, right?
Yeah.
I haven't read these.
It all runs together.
The fact that like you were saying that Adam saw himself killing Gansey, I feel better that book 1 told us that. So
yeah, no, book 1 definitely does tell us that, but it's not in that scene. It's like later, much later.
The thing that I desperately want to know is who is Blue's father?
Yes.
I have so
that's
many
good question.
I have so
And
many
over there
fears.
not making a sound. I'm just gonna look away.
I have so many fears. Like,
I'm looking for a specific scene, but I'm also trying not to spoil. Because this is territory I could easily spoil in.
She's doing.
as for where I am now, I do not know who it is, so this is just my theory right now. I low-key think it is Glendower.
The drama.
Or like some physical manifestation.
Rhiannon is like, she's like having a moment. She's like, no one look at me.
Rhiannon secretly muted herself.
Oh man, that was a lot. Maybe Glendower? Kelsey's like,
Chelsea knows the answer too.
I don't know anything.
Y'all need to continue. I'm just saying.
I'm in book 3. I'm trying.
Yeah, I'm ready for book 3. I feel like book 3 is about blue, so I feel like we'll get some answers. But
I would hope so with the title, but you know what? I've been wrong before.
is it called? Is that the blue lily blue one?
Yeah.
I like can't even keep track of the names of the books. I'm like, which one's book 2? I don't know.
The only reason I know is I watched the readathon by Zoe, 24-hour readathon, when she read the Raven Cycle. I watched that like 6 times in the last 4 weeks. So I'm just like right there with it.
Oh my god, yeah. These books are so confusing. There's just a lot of questions and not a lot of answers, I guess.
No.
At least so
We
far.
have to continue.
I'm planning on continuing. I have the second book on my TBR for September. I haven't been reading, so that's a whole nother question. But
don't worry, there's a real fancy pants readathon coming up this month. It's gonna get you right back in the swing of it.
that won't get me to read The Dream Thieves, though.
Yeah.
Kelsey, totally unrelated. I'm once again traveling during Contemporary-thon. Every time I try to do it, it's either midterms, finals, or I'm traveling. So I'm trying. I have 3 books from the library, but I'm trying.
Okay, I want to ask everyone to recommend a book that if you liked this book, you would like this book. Like if you liked The Raven Boys.
I want to go. I want to go.
Okay,
I
Spencer.
want to go. I want to say, oh, dang it. I don't have it. The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw.
Great choice.
That was mine.
Rhiannon,
Yes. Sorry to steal it from everyone. Sorry to steal the thunder. I just filmed a video today where I was talking about the Wicked Deep, so I was remembering my affection for it. But it's the same kind of idea where it's like contemporary. Oh yes, Chelsea's got her modeling skills. Get it. Work.
Modeling over here, don't mind me.
It's this, yeah, same kind of idea, contemporary setting. It's like a seaside town where creepy witches like come back from the dead and like possess people. It's basically like Hocus Pocus meets practical magic, and it's super atmospheric. I absolutely loved it. So if you haven't read The Wicked Deep and you liked Raven Boys, I think you would really enjoy The Wicked Deep.
I have to say though, I've read both. The Raven Boys is better.
I would say so too.
I
This
feel
one,
like
for this one, it's the atmosphere is great, but I didn't personally like the actual plot.
I think it really depends if you like the main character. Will depend if you like Wicked Deep or not. I didn't mind her, so I liked it. I know plenty of people that hated her and they hated the book, but the atmosphere is fantastic for the fall.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't like. Well, it's not that I didn't like her. I just didn't care.
I will say, I think The Wicked Deep relies rather heavily on a particular crutch, which I won't say anything about. If you've read the book, you'll know.
Yeah.
But I think there's a crutch that's pretty, if you don't like that element, then you won't like the book. But I personally was completely shaken by that. I loved it. So
I loved it so much.
I did really like it.
What'd you say?
Me?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Oh, you did like it. Okay, good. Nice.
I love the atmosphere and everything. So, and I liked the like persecution element of it. It was less about actual witches and more about the aspect of persecution that was just for not being a proper lady.
That's yeah. No, yeah, like there was so much stuff that I liked about The Wicked Deep. I just didn't love the romance of it, I guess.
Yeah. That was a little weird for me as well.
it was kind of an afterthought too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like Why is this here? It could have not been here.
Yeah, wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
I have to go get my dog. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Who's next?
Book recommendations?
I have one.
Go. Ah.
I was like, come on, Rhiannon, it's right behind you.
This is my favorite book, one of my all-time favorite books. Sassy by Madeline Miller. As far as similarities to the Raven Boys goes, it's probably only similar in that it is very different from other books. If you have not read the Odyssey, if you have not read many epics in your life, you're going to find that the way that this story is told is very different from a normal, like, beginning, climax, end. There are several climaxes throughout the book because it's written as an epic like the Odyssey was, the original was. But it's about Sassy. It's a retelling of the Odyssey from her perspective, the Witch Queen herself. It is beautiful and wonderful and super, like, feminist and just promotes being an independent woman in a world that, like, was trying to put her down and becoming something by just working hard and using your own two hands, which is kind of what witchcraft is all about. This is probably the most realistic depiction of witchcraft that I have read, because the way that she practices in this book is more like real witchcraft than anything I've seen in another, like, fantasy book. So, highly recommend.
It's on my shelf. Have I read it? No. But I have it. I own the copy that Spencer's holding up.
I'm so excited to read that one and The Song of Achilles. Both of those have been on my TBR for so long. They look so good.
They're both 5 stars for me, so she can basically do no wrong at this point.
Are they both historical fiction? Like,
Song of Achilles is a retelling of Achilles and Patroclus' story, and then this one's a retelling of the Odyssey.
I do. That's why I picked it up. And there was another book of the month this month that was Greek.
Oh yeah.
Silence of the Girls.
I don't remember the name of it, but it's the one I picked.
Oh,
I love the idea of them, so I keep buying them, but, like, I keep not reading them. That's depressing.
Relatable.
We've all been there.
We all do it.
My recommendation would be Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova. The first book follows a girl named Alex, and she is she's in a family of brujas or witches. They're all Latinx. She has 2 siblings. They're all girls. She's the middle child. And the oldest one has already gotten her powers. She's a healer. The youngest one has already gotten her powers, which is, like, weird because she's so young. And she's a seer, so she sees, like, people who have already passed away and stuff. And then she is waiting for her powers, but she's also very scared of them and she wants them to go away. So it starts out with her deciding to, like, banish her powers, which then causes all of the problems, and she has to fix them. And then the second one is in the oldest sister's perspective, and the third one comes out next year, I think, and it'll be in the youngest sister perspective. The only issue I have with these books is that the point of view of these 2 different sisters, there's no difference between them, and I struggled with knowing whose perspective I was in. Luckily, one book is one perspective, one book is the other, so it's not like it switches.
Okay.
But it was hard reading the second one. I was like, who are you? Like, where am I? But other than that, I really liked the stories. It's very fantastical. Like, they go to different, like, realms and stuff like that. There's zombies and crazy shit. So. Yeah.
So I have 2 recommendations, and they're a bit of a stretch, but hear me out on them. So the first one is The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell. I don't have any of my books. They're all in Minnesota, so we have to bear with this. This one follows a girl who is a magus, and she's able to, and basically in this world, thank you, Spencer. Basically in this world, if you have a magical affinity, it's kind of like an X-Men power. Like, you have one thing that you can control. And our main character has the ability to travel time, or, like, she's able to control time and use that. And so she has to go back in time to fix a mistake that she made in a different time period. And that's where our story sets off. And this one kind of has a magical brink around Manhattan. So if you have a magical affinity, you can't leave New York. That's kind of like the catalyst for the story, and that kind of gave me the same feels, like the ley lines, and you have to find like who created it. So that's one. The other one is Strange to the Dreamer. It kind of gave me the same atmospheric feels when I was reading it and on audiobook. Like, so those are the two that I think if you like they're so good. And like, so Strange to the Dreamer is like the same atmosphere, like the story, you have to let the story develop. You can't just go in expecting something. Like, you need to let the story kind of come. And if you can listen to Strange on audio, highly recommend. Steve does an amazing job with the audiobook. It's so good.
I have to say on that too, that my note on the audiobook is that I tried to read this on audiobook for the first time and I couldn't. I was like, I'm done. I DNF'd it. I was like, I can't read this. And then somebody else, I think it was Katrina from Little Book Owl, was like, no, pick it up because you'll like it. And I was like, okay. And then I read it and it's my favorite book of the year so far. Like,
same.
And so I'm planning on rereading it because Katrina is actually doing a buddy read along that I'm going to be a part of the live show for. And so I'm going to reread it this month. And I'm going to try the audiobook this time now, knowing the story. Maybe I will like it.
I followed along at first, but then like by the last maybe 200 pages, I came home from class, laid on my couch, just closed my eyes and like just let the story happen. And it was so good. I was just sucked away for like 4 hours. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's good.
So many people are reading that this month.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of read-alongs. My book.
There's so many. It's a lot.
Such a good book.
Oh, are you just trying to air
trying
out? Yeah, just do it. We're going to turn the AC on. Sorry if it's loud.
It's so hot.
What can you do?
Never apologize for air conditioning. Never apologize for air conditioning.
My fan's right there, so I feel you guys.
Bex, do you have any
I was going to say Strange the Dreamer.
Well,
but mostly the writing style. Because I read Maggie Stiefvater 3 years ago or so, and the writing style, I'd never seen anything like it until I read Strange the Dreamer, and I was like, oh my god, it's so beautiful, and it's just lyrical, and it's just stunning. So mine's Strange the Dreamer.
Yeah.
Everyone should read that.
And Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor also has a very similar writing style, although it's not anywhere near the same as the Raven Boys. Like, it's way more fantastical.
Yeah.
And otherworldly, but so good.
Yeah.
As far as
I don't read many witchy books, so I couldn't really recommend any with like the more magical elements because I don't read a lot of witchy books.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rhiannon. I promise I'll try.
It's okay. Clearly, I'm struggling as well to find one that I really love.
So, any last final thoughts before we wrap up?
I actually have one thing I did want to add, kind of going back to our Adam conversation. I did feel bad for Gansey because he felt like he couldn't talk to Adam or Blue because like there's sometimes where I felt they were a little too harsh on him. Like,
preach, girl, preach. Like,
I totally get both sides of it since I've seen both sides of it, but I still felt bad for Gansey that like he couldn't, like he had trouble talking to his friend because like he was afraid that like everything he said was going to irritate him. Like, there's sometimes I get where Blue was coming from, and sometimes I'm like, you need to cut him some slack. And same with Adam. It's like, I get where you're coming from, but sometimes like you have to know he's not trying to do the thing. He's just trying to be nice, and you guys need to like.
Yeah, it was the most confusing thing with Gansey for me was like, especially with Adam, not so much Blue because she doesn't know him, but with Adam, I was like, Gansey, like, he's just trying to be your friend and to help and to be nice. And all of these things are positive. Like, you know him well enough that you should know that even though you don't want him to help that way, that's all he's trying to do.
Yeah. I don't like when he kept saying, and he did it multiple times, he said, Gansey likes all his things in one place. And it annoyed me. I was just raging by the end because I was just, especially when he'd left his house and, and I understand that would have been really hard and I felt for him, but then he kept going, oh, well, now you got all your things in one place. I'm like, don't say that. That's so cruel. Gansey's never said that. I was like, And then I hate Adam. So whatever.
I agree to a certain extent. It is frustrating, but I think it all like ties back into that like difference of like how they grew up. When you grow up in that environment, you develop different like triggers, so to speak. And one of those is the way that he acted. So no matter how much he knew him, no matter what, like I watch it with my own my own parents. I watch it with people who I know. And it's like, no matter how much you know logically that it's not fair of you to get mad about this behavior, or it's not fair of you to feel like he's trying to put you at a disadvantage. It doesn't matter how much you know that. It's still something that like deep down, like it just triggers you into going, don't treat me like that. I'm not a possession. I am not someone that you can just pay off to be your friend. Like I don't want these things. And he did express that multiple times, and Gainsey just couldn't hear it because all he knew was love expressed this way. All he knows is
they're both products of their own,
and so they're not listening to each other, and so it creates this explosive tension where they don't speak each other's language.
Yeah, no, like I saw from both sides. Like I saw where Gantz was coming from, like, you know, his friend needed help, he wanted to help. I also saw where Adam was coming from, like he didn't want handouts, he didn't want to be Gantz's charity project. But there was a few times I felt so bad for Gantz just because, like, when it was in his point of view, he was just like, I don't know how to talk to my friend, and I felt so sad. Like I get if it was Adam's point of view, like especially when it was, he was like, I don't want to be treated as your charity case. But there was just a few times where I felt bad for Gantz. He's like, I don't know what to say because I'm going to say the wrong thing. Like when he said to Blue's, like, my words betray me or something to that extent, I just felt so bad for him because there's nothing worse not being able to say the right thing.
Yeah.
And he was afraid of saying the wrong thing, that he'd lose his friends, and I just hated it so much. Why?
It kind of shows his I mean, it shows the privilege. It shows the ignorance of how to speak to people that are outside of this realm. He literally doesn't know how. So it's like, put as much effort into learning about that as you do about ley lines, and you might.
Oh my gosh, drag him!
Salty!
I like him. I do like him, but I just don't think. I think like he was like, oh man, why don't people see that I'm trying to be nice? And it's like, well, maybe you should try and like
learn their own,
like how other people in the world who aren't rich feel and how they react to these sort of things. Because I think Adam just got to a boiling point where he was like, I've told you so many times and you aren't listening. You're actively not listening. You're actively not trying. And he's like, I can see that you can learn things. I see that you're intelligent. So put effort into it and you can probably get there.
Yeah, I definitely do agree.
Both of them were like being so stubborn about both of their aspects of it. Like, Adam has his own feelings about all this stuff, and he's annoyed that Gainsey is only trying to use money to help him or to be nice or whatever. And Gainsey, that's all he knows. But Gainsey also isn't trying to learn Adam's language on that aspect. And so they're both like at this standstill where they're like, I want to be friends, but like, how do you be friends on each scale? Like, how do you get to this balance? And I mean, I think it was really well done considering the age of these characters. Like, it's likely they're not going to know how to do that. Like,
I mean, they are 16.
Grown adults don't know how to do that. So it makes sense. And I think it was really well done, that part, at least.
No, I agree. It's one of those ones, like, when reading it as, like, you know, an adult, air quoting that, it's, like, one thing. But it's, like, yeah, okay, if I was 16, I totally, like, both sides. One thing I will say, though, is that this happened in book 2. Kind of swayed me to one thing. I'm not going to say anything further than that, but I'll message you guys if you're in book 2, if you know what I'm talking about. That one thing about the Gainsey Adam thing. No, maybe? Okay.
I don't remember. Please message me.
I think
I'll message you guys.
I think I know what you're saying.
Like, there was one part where I kind of rolled my eyes after the book 1 stuff, but just book 1 alone, I felt bad for Gainsey.
Yeah.
Just book 1 alone. Book 2, I have no sympathy.
Yes, girl. Yes.
But I don't blame any one person. So, like, you know, when it comes to Adam and Gainsey, I think they're both, like, struggling.
Mm-hmm. And they're both so opposite of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like, one's insanely rich and one's insanely poor. And they're so different. Yeah, and an abusive household, which is just a whole nother stitch. But they're so different. Whereas if Gansey wasn't maybe as rich, maybe he'd be able to relate a little bit more.
Yeah.
But they're just two other ends of the spectrums.
Right.
I think I want to comment on what Jade said, that Adam never helped himself, that he over-victimized himself. I love you, Jade, first of all. I do
But
disagree.
she's about to get salty.
I'm not going to shade you for saying that. I'm just going to say that I disagree because Adam, out of all the characters in this book, Adam works the hardest. He's the one who has the most life outside of this fantastical journey that they're trying to go on. He's the one who's taking care of himself, and this is probably shown even more in the other books, so I don't know how much of this is shown in the first one. But as a whole, him as a character, he works the hardest. He works the hardest in the real world to support himself, to support his family, to, so I don't feel like he over-victimizes himself because he could have just laid down and said, someone take me away from this house, someone help me, someone do this. That's very shifting the blame onto someone else and saying, hey, come rescue me from this seems kind of the antithesis of what he did. He was more like, I'm going to grin and bear this. This is kind of, what I have to do. I'm going to take care of my mom. I'm going to provide for myself. And so I don't think he ever really just kind of laid down and said, woe is me, the world hates me. It was more like the pressure of all the things he had to worry about that his friends didn't got to a point where when they were, not able to speak his language, it made him lash out at them. But I think that, it doesn't excuse that he was, mean to someone, but I don't think that he was being a victim. He was like a highly pressured individual who lashed out because he had issues that no one around him related to, no one around him got, and no one seemed to hear him. No one seemed to really, he would tell them something and they just didn't compute it because they couldn't really imagine a life like his. And so that would get exhausting. And he's an exhausted character. To me, he's like a run-down character. He just has to go day in, day out and do all this stuff.
He's a bit broken, yeah.
Yeah, I almost wish that we got more of Adam's everyday life because he talks about how he has all these jobs and then he's also doing all this stuff with Gansey for the ley line stuff, and then he's also going to school and he's doing really well in school and all this stuff, and he's constantly going on top of the fact that he's frustrated by his friends who he doesn't come from their world, and so he's he wants to be a part of it in a certain sense because he knows that it'll help him in the future, but he's there's this blockage where he can't join exactly. And he doesn't really want to, it doesn't seem. He's not vying the same way where our villain is pissed that he used to be a part of this rich world and he's so angry that his dad fucked up and he's no longer a part of this rich world. That's not how Adam Adam isn't jealous of Gansey and Ronan and stuff. He just wants to do well and wants to get out of his situation.
But he wanted to do it on his own too.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want a handout. He just wants to get there. Yeah.
He wants to work for it.
Yeah, no,
which I understand.
Yeah, no, I totally like how at least he made a big deal of I'm not mad that I'm getting out of the situation. I'm mad it's not on my own terms. I did like how there was that specifications that it's not he was okay with the situations. That he had no problem paying for school. He didn't want a handout though. He wanted to know I earned this. He earned his good grades. He worked 3 jobs to go to the school. He did all this other stuff. I did like that about him. I do feel the other guys totally took that for granted. And that was one thing I did like with him and Blue, how they had that conversation about how the guys don't understand it, how they both have to work. Kind of you have that mindset. That was really nice to kind of as a reader, as someone I got my first job at 15 to help get through stuff in high school. It's I totally saw where they were coming from. No, a lot of my friends didn't get that. I had work. I couldn't just drop what I was doing or whatnot. So I did like that though. I did. I'm totally torn because every time it was a point of view of a different character, I totally saw where that character was coming from.
Yeah, I agree. I think Maggie Stiefvater did a great job of giving you a whole person's perspective, not just these baseline stereotypes.
I also don't want to make it sound like he's an angelic character, like he can do no wrong, like the way that he lashed out was excused. I don't think that either. I just think that I feel like it's not excusable that he lashes out at his friends, because another thing that Adam doesn't do is express that he's tired, express that he can't tell them when he does need help because he doesn't want to accept any help. And that's not okay, because then he blames them for, you know, he'll blame Gansey for like wanting him at his
get up late. Yeah.
You know, like, oh, you think you can just call me up and I can show up? You know, all these things I have to do. But it's like he doesn't really fully express to him, like he still wants to be able to be there, so he kind of keeps that, and then he doesn't really like fully express. I can't.
He just lets it burn. He just lets it burn.
So it just like it just rises to a point where he lashes out at people, and of course that's not good or a healthy way of coping or good for your friends or a nice thing to do. But it's definitely like justified in his character. Like it's something that's very like natural. Like I know people like that. I hazard to say I am a person like that. And you can't blame a person for not knowing exactly what you need if you don't tell them.
Communication.
Yep.
Amazing thing that we humans have.
Now, one thing I do want to also add, and this is one of the things that did knock off a star for me, I thought our villain was a bit weak. Like, the entire time that Cassie brings up villain, I'm like, oh, that's right, there was a villain in this book. I totally forgot. Like, I thought that was such, like, it makes sense once you know the Noah bit, but if Noah was not a character, the villain would not exist at all, and he was so forgettable. Like, book 2 introduced some cool characters, and I'm like, yeah, okay, book 2, but book 1, I'm like, oh, that's right, we had a villain. Okay.
No, yeah, I agree. That was one of the things that was lacking for me in this book as well, was like, what? Like,
you're there, but
not a good enough villain to hold on his own. But I also, finishing the book, I was like, yeah, his story wrapped up. He's not the main villain. Like, it's clear that this is just the beginning of this arc.
Kind of
and what?
It's kind of like an origin story for the characters more than it is like its own like full, you know, hero versus villain thing.
I would love a prequel with Noah and our villain, like back in the day, up until Noah's death. I would love a prequel story with that. I would read that.
I think I would hate them. Like, I think I would hate those characters.
I would, but I want to know more though.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I would say about this character that's kind of interesting is I think he makes a really good foil to Gansey's character, because they have the same drive. Like, they're almost the same character in a way. I mean, their personalities are different, but like their backstory is very similar. And it's almost like what would have happened if Gansey had like lost everything, like if he'd gone dark or whatever. I think it was an interesting exploration of how like two sides of the same world. So I think as a villain, he's definitely weak, but I thought that was an interesting.
Oh yeah, what happened to Neek? What did anyone else have that like what the heck happened moment?
To who?
Neek?
Oh, Neve, she's a weirdo. I don't know.
At the end with like the whole scrying disappearing thing, like I'm like, were you a ghost the whole time? Are you also like that part? I'm like,
I can't say anything. Oh my god.
She gives me the shivers, and I know what happens. Like, I've read the whole series, but she gives me the creeps every time I read it. I'm like, there's something not right.
She was like, not today, not today.
No.
One of the most interesting parts of the story for me, I was like, Neve, I need more of just like all of the women of the Blues household, including me. I was like, I want the whole book.
Yes, I want a whole 300 Foxway everything. Like, I want to know all about it.
I need to know like who the other character. What's her name? She's always hiding. Like
Persephone.
Yeah.
Love her.
I love her.
I need more about all.
She was so cute.
The rest of the story.
Yes.
But like more.
Chelsea's like, not today.
I need the part as it goes through.
Okay, I'm reading my notes. I did have one more. How is Gansey's allergy gonna go back into this? They foreshadowed that so much.
Yeah.
He's
No
inside
comments.
through that.
I can't say anything
Mute yourself, Rhiannon. Mute yourself.
I'm convinced that the reason he dies if Blue kisses him because
She muted herself.
he crazy bee bullshit. And Blue is definitely gonna kiss him, and then like something crazy is gonna happen so that he gets saved because of the delay. Like
that's what I'm afraid of because I read another book, which I'm not gonna say 'cause I don't want to spoil anyone, where a love interest was saved after they should not have been saved, and I'm so worried about like I hate that trope so much, and because he already like died and came back with like they told us of the whole Noah thing. I'm so worried we're about to see that again, and I feel like I'm about to throw the book across the room if they do that. Like I don't want that. So
it's gonna happen. I'm convinced. Chelsea's over here hiding her face.
Everyone that's read it so far is just like, la, 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 la.
Trying so hard not to show the emotions.
Like, I don't know. If something happened to book 2, which I'm not going to say, and I'm so worried that's the catalyst for it. And I'll message you guys that have read book 2 what I'm thinking. You want to tell me if I'm right or not? Because I just started book 3. But I'm afraid that I know how it's going to happen and why it's going to happen. And it's going to happen. And I'm just like, I'm getting ready, but I'm not happy about it.
Can you just film you reading the last book?
Yes, please.
Of course.
I want reactions, live time. Send
I
them
have
to me.
the first 2 because I'm doing vlogs for Deerathon. So I do have my reaction to the first 2 so far.
I'm going to
So
read that.
that'll be up sometime next week, and I'll do the last 2 as well.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Okay, so who has only read the first book? Just me or Spencer too?
I read the first 2.
The first 2.
Mhm.
Bex, how many of you read? All of them?
All of them.
All of them. And then Becky's in the 3rd.
I just started the third. I'm on chapter 3 or something.
Rhiannon's read all of them. You've read all of them. Okay. So I'm the only one that's only read one. So never mind.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like, what would be your like theories on the second book? But you guys have all read it, so never mind.
I can tell you all my theories except one would have been so wrong. I can tell you that right now. All of my theories were.
If I have theories, I'm just like, I just need more information is really what I want. And I know that there's 4 books, so I know we're not going to meet the Welsh king in the second one. Well, I mean, that's my theory, I guess, is that's not going to happen in the second one. And at some point, we've got to get a Gansey Blue thing going on. But I don't know when
Who
it'll
knows?
happen.
I'll never know.
So those are my only like real theories. Like, oh, and what's gonna happen with this Raven chainsaw? Like,
I love chainsaws.
Chainsaw's the bomb.
apparently it's important later, but like as of book 1, I'm like, but why are you here?
I'm afraid we're about to get a chainsaw Hedwig situation, and I'm not ready for that possibility.
Oh my gosh.
Is chainsaw in all?
I understand why you were confused because it's literally the last line. When I mentioned dreams earlier, he literally just like throws that out there at the very end. I took chainsaw out of my dreams is the last sentence.
It's like
The first book or what?
Oh, the first book, yeah.
oh, the first book.
I understand why Cassie's confused, but I've read the whole thing and I'm still confused.
I feel like book 2 did a really good job of developing the whole chainsaw thing, but at the same time, I'm real worried we're about to get like a chainsaw Hedwig situation going on.
Nobody wants that.
I love chainsaw.
Be anything.
I have no opinion on chainsaw other than like, why are you taking a bird to school?
You will like
It will make
Because
a
he
lot
has to
more
be
sense.
fed every 2 hours.
I mean, I know that, but why do you have her? Like, where did she? He doesn't even really explain where she came from. Why did he decide to pick her up? Like, if I saw a baby bird, I hate to say this, but like birds, no. First of
You're
all,
not picking up
birds
the
are
bird.
gross. They have diseases, and second of all, I don't like birds. They're scary. They have beaks. They bite. Ouch. No. So like, why did you pick it up in the first place?
It's from his
Ronan.
so it's okay.
No, I don't like birds. So
Although
You will know in the next few books, like how that whole relationship.
in
Yeah,
Ronan's
just
defense,
hold on.
Gansey wasn't sure if he was drunk or not, and so I mean, that's one thing that Rowan did have going for him. He probably, like, in the moment, wasn't really sure what was going on. It was like, look how cute it is.
I'm partially confused.
My fiance once went to school with a person who kept a baby mouse in his pocket. So.
I did too, and I thought they were weird too.
My sister.
What do you do over that side of the world?
Unrelated though, my sister.
Go with you.
My sister works in a funeral home, and there was a fire in it, and so there was 3 baby mice that she tried to save, and so she rehabilitated them, let them out. One of them never left, so it's currently in her room, and she kept it as a pet because we live in northern Minnesota. So the first frost comes, you really can't like let the mouse out. So she kept this. So now she has 3 snakes and a pet mouse. Fun fact.
Don't snakes eat mice?
Yes, so they're separate. They're separate.
I love
No thanks. I don't do small rodents or birds. Birds? No.
Birds and small rodents.
Do you like large rodents?
Capybara is cute, but I don't want to own one.
Rats make really good pets. I'll just say that.
Oh, rats. I know, I've seen all those videos of the cute rats, and I'm like, yeah, but, like, I don't want one.
I don't know. I have a dog. My sister has a cat, 3 snakes, and a mouse. I have a dog.
I have 2 cats. They're not at Chelsea's house, so I can't go get one.
I have no clue where my dog is.
Oh, no.
My dog's a 35-kilo cattle dog. She can't be in the house.
Oh.
My dog's in the window. I don't know if you guys can see or not, but my dog's in the window. There he is.
I see Rhiannon's cat on Instagram all the time. She's so cute. With
I'm
her
gonna
little
get
mittens.
No.
Oh,
There's Alistair. I'm gonna go get him real quick.
so
The
cute.
one that chews through all the headphones.
Yay!
I named her Loki. What did I expect?
Oh, who was shocked?
Well, my cat Padfoot is the one that chews all clothing and all shoelaces,
Oh.
blankets, sweatshirts, underwear, socks, everything, bras.
Everything.
I totally missed where we were going. I'm just hearing Cassie talk about underwear, so let's search the bras. I'm so confused.
I was saying that my cat chews all clothing. So
Oh.
I'm listing everything that has been chewed.
He likes socks because he knows that socks mean outside without him, so he will eat your
My other cat, Hedwig, he doesn't chew anything, but he really likes just getting deep down into my stinky shoes and smelling like rubs his face into that stank. It's great. Like I'm glad someone likes it because I don't.
Well, this has taken a turn.
Now we're talking about destructive pets. It's fine. I mean, chainsaw.
Yeah, it's all relevant.
Okay,
I'll
I
turn
think
back in.
now that all these cute animals are here, I think that we need to say goodbye.
Once the animals come out, it's
Yeah, it's time for us to go.
Okay, thank you guys all for watching. Again, September, we're reading Heretics Anonymous by
Katie Henry.
Katie Henry. And the live show will be October 13th. Woo! These 5, 6 are going to discuss a possibility of doing a read-along for the rest of the books. We're going to discuss it, and maybe it'll happen. I don't know, but I hope so. And that's it for tonight. So thank you guys for watching. Bye!
Bye.